Hi, welcome to Artsy Fartsy with Emily. Today we are talking about artwork created by Charlie Russell, and we are talking about habitat and using the book Cactus Hotel, and we are talking about the element of art of space. I can't wait to get started. Let's go. Charlie Russell was a Western artist that was famous for painting sweeping Montana landscapes and the people that lived there. This painting is called Charlie Russell and His Friends. Charlie Russell painted himself on the horse, and his friends are riding behind him. The flat mountain behind him is one of his favorite places to paint, Square Butte. He does a great job showing space by using different zones in his paintings. In this painting, let's look at the foreground, midground, and background. Foreground is the forward part of the artwork that looks the closest. Midground is the middle part of the artwork that shows things that are far away, but not farthest away. Background is the part of the painting in the back, or that is the farthest away. In this painting, what do you see in the foreground? I notice Charlie Russell, a buffalo skeleton, grass, and bushes. The river and the other horse riders are in the midground. The mountains and Square Butte are in the background. Look at this painting by Charlie Russell called Fireboat. The mountains, clouds, and sky are in the background. The river and boat are in the middle ground, and the people and the horses are in the foreground. This painting is called Wagon Boss. When we talk about space in art, there are many things that go into it besides just foreground, midground, and background. There are lots of ways to use space to make a piece of artwork look like it takes up space and to keep it from looking flat. For example, Charlie Russell made items that were up close, like the wagon boss on the horse, bigger, and items that were farther away, like the wagon, are smaller. If you look closely, even the cows get smaller the farther away they get, or towards the back of the line. Another trick artists use to show space is overlapping. The cows overlap. Some are behind the others. This also shows space. Our artwork today is inspired by the artwork of Charlie Russell and by the book Cactus Hotel. Before you go on to creating our artwork, you might want to pause and read this book, Cactus Hotel. You can find a read aloud on YouTube. We are going to create a sense of space by making a background, midground, and foreground, just like Charlie Russell did. In Cactus Hotel, we learned that the saguaro cactus is a habitat or home for many critters. Our artwork is going to show that too. For this project, you will need a blue piece of construction paper. You will need a green piece of construction paper. You will need dark blue half sheet of construction paper. You will need a medium brown or a darker brown piece of construction paper and a light brown or tan piece of construction paper. You will also need some glue and a pair of scissors and a pencil or something to write with. And you will probably also want some crayons. With your blue piece of paper. Then you're going to add your dark blue piece of paper. I'm going to draw some mountains on my blue piece of paper. I even drew Square Butte like Charlie Russell might have drawn. Then I'm going to cut out my mountains. This will be my background. Because it's the farthest away, it's going to be darker than the other parts of the background or midground. Also, because I want it to be higher than the midground or the foreground, I'm going to glue it about halfway up the paper. I'm going to get my glue on there. Not too much, but just enough that the edges stay down. And then I'm going to flip it over. I also made sure that my pencil marks were on the back so that they didn't show up on my artwork. Then smush, smush, smush it down. Next, I'm going to use my dark brown and I'm going to draw some mountains on this. Because these mountains are closer, they're not quite as dark as the blue mountains. And you don't need to make them fancy. Just a squiggly line will do. They don't need to have a lot of detail or be exact. So they look more like hills. I'm going to layer those in front of my background mountains and smush, smush, smush them down. Next, I'm going to get my tan. This will be the midground, or even you could consider it the foreground. I'm going to cut a curvy line, and this is going to be my desert soil or sandy soil that my saguaro cactus is going to grow in. I'm going to get some glue on the back of there and glue that along the bottom edge of my light blue paper and then smush, smush, smush it down. Now I have got my background all done and I'm ready to start drawing my cactus. I'm going to draw a long, skinny, tall rainbow shape, and then I'm going to add the arms of the saguaro cactus. Oh, that one feels a little narrow right by the base, so I'm going to widen it up a little bit. I used marker so that you could see it really well. You can use pencil for this. Your lines that you're drawing won't really show because I'm going to glue the side with the lines, or the side that I drew on. I'm going to glue that down. I'm carefully cutting out my saguaro cactus shape, being careful to cut around the arms of the cactus. When we read our cactus book, we learned that the more arms this type of cactus has, the older it is. So this is a pretty old cactus. And we also learned that the older the cactus gets, the more habitats it provides for different animals. All right, make sure to throw your scraps away. Before I glue this down, however, I'm going to draw some habitat holes in my cactus. Maybe some on the arms, maybe some on the main trunk of the cactus. Then, once I've drawn where my arms are, I'm going to slightly fold them and give a snip in the middle of the circles. And then I can stick my one point of my scissors through that hole and cut around each, or cut the inside out of each hole. Very carefully. This takes a while, but you can do it. If you need to recruit help from your adult, you certainly can, but take your time, do little cuts, and you'll get there. These are going to be later, we are going to add critters to these holes. What kind of critters did we learn can live in a saguaro cactus? Be thinking about what you would want to draw in each one of these little tiny rooms in our Cactus Hotel. Only one more to cut out. Snip and then cut around the inside of the circle. This takes patience, but you can do it. Now it is time for me to glue down my cactus in the landscape that I have made, the landscape that shows lots of space. So a little bit of glue around the edges so that it doesn't wibble wobble around. And notice I put the glue on the side where I drew my lines. Then very carefully I flip it over and smush it down. Now it is time for me to add some detail. not only am I going to add critters to the inside of the rooms of my Cactus Hotel, but I'm also going to add detail to the foreground and the middle ground. We also learned in Cactus Hotel that the saguaro cactus have spines that go on the trunk and on the branches of the cactus. And these allow the cactus to expand and contract and hold more or less water depending on what the cactus needs and when the water comes. So I drew lines to indicate that texture. Now I am drawing some smaller cactus in the background. They're smaller to create a look of space because, as we learned looking at the Charlie Russell paintings, to create a sense of space, you can draw things smaller. Now I'm adding details, some maybe piled soil around the base of the cactus, some small bushes or branches or plants that might be growing around our cactus to add more detail. It's almost time to add the critters inside the cactus. Let's see. I have to find, I'll add some leaves first. Now, when you add your critters, you will probably want to use crayon or pencil. I am using a Sharpie so that you can see clearly on this video. If I had used pencil, I don't think it would have shown up quite as clearly. In that top room of our Cactus Hotel, I am adding a little tiny owl. In this room, I'm adding a little tiny bird that might live in our Cactus Hotel. And this one's hard to see on the video, but I'm going to add a little mouse in that room of the Cactus Hotel. I'm almost done. If you want to add other creatures or other details to yours, you can. Feel free to add more details in the foreground or background or midground to create a sense of space. Great job on your Cactus Hotel. Thanks for joining us on Artsy Fartsy with Emily. Keep creating and keep learning.